I want to ask you an interesting question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. And this is the relationship between peace and creativity.
Uh-huh.
Because on one hand, if we look at what the experience of peace or the meaning of peace, deep, profound peace, signifies or implies, it, it implies a kind of an experience of tranquility, of stillness, and almost a reluctance to even engage in the creative process. And at the same time, it seems that one of the profound attributes of the experience of profound peace, which is a spiritual experience, it seems to be the birth of a willingness, or more than a willingness, but a compulsion to engage in the creative process with more vigor, with more energy, with more enthusiasm, with more inspiration than individuals who have never experienced that depth of peace or spiritual peace.
Absolutely.
But because it seems like a paradox or a contradiction, but it's not.
Peace is always related to disturbance, though
That's
it's
right.
ionical.
That's right.
So if you are disturbed, you want to be peaceful.
Right.
But when you are peaceful, you become energetic. And when there is energy, there is enthusiasm, there is creativity, dance, all this springs from that state. So I would say like peace is that zero state, from minus to zero.
Right.
But you can't be stuck in the zero state. It's a very, rather it could be termed as a very dull state. So a step.
Are you saying too much meditation makes one dull?
Too much of anything is no good. Nothing too much is good.
Because this is something I don't think a lot of people know. Like, for example, I met two of your disciples, and I could tell that in your service, I could see that they're very busy. But the busyness of real spiritual service is self-liberating. It's self-liberating because it liberates the individual from their own ego, and it also serves the world or the creative process at the same time. And it's paradoxical because usually the individual finds that busyness through the initial experience of peace. So, for example, I know when people would meet you, for example, and then go through your programs, they probably experience the kind of peace, a sense of fullness and completeness that they never knew before. But if they follow it through to the end, they don't know that it's going to be leading them to a kind of busyness that they probably never would have wanted to say yes to if they knew where it was headed, if they knew what was coming.
There is one type of busyness out of feverishness.
Yeah.
There is another type of busyness which comes out of compassion. When the tsunami happened,
yes,
I never told anybody to do anything. I mean, though we were concerned about tsunami, we want to do something about it. But then people, even before I even said to anybody, everyone rushed. And within 2 hours of tsunami happened, 2,000 people were fed, and the shelters were given to them. This type of dynamism, I feel, comes out of a sense of love and compassion. But one thing that we need to take care is not get lost in the service activity, but come back to the self.
So wouldn't you say that the experience of ineffable peace and groundedness is the source of the kind of activity we're speaking about?
Correct. You simply have to remember, see the nature, wind blows, the wind doesn't get tired. Fire glows, it doesn't get tired. The water flows, rivers are flowing from millions of years, they don't get tired. Because they are just in their own nature. Sun is shining every day. Sun doesn't get tired and says, I'm going to hide, it's just shining somewhere else. So same thing, if we are just like stones are there, trees are there, like we are also part of this creation, and we are just being in our nature. Nothing throws us off of balance. That's my analysis. And it's not a big deal. Everyone has that simplicity, childlike innocence in each one. Everybody is so complete, so full. It's just all this conditioning which has covered it. Society saying something, tradition saying something, people around them, all the time pointing out fingers, hey, what you're doing is no good, hey, you're not right. This type of conditioning, that is what is really covering the true nature of spirit that everybody has. What do you say?
I agree. But what I like about what you're saying is that as the conditioning falls away, then this kind of pure response that that at least feels like it has an infinite source of energy or infinite source of potential emerges.
Absolutely. It's so natural. It's so
What's a natural state, but also the natural response.
Hmm.
And often people want to know what the right thing to do is, and the right thing to do will most often spontaneously emerge to the degree to one has transcended this or let go of this kind of
letting go, effortless letting go.
So do you think that energy that's emerging is the same energy that sparked the creative process, coming alive through the human being who's been freed from this kind of this false sense of self?
You know, there are two types of thinking. One is the linear thinking.
Yeah.
In the linear thinking, everything should start somewhere, end somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
There is another thing, it's a spherical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When people ask me, when did the creation begin, I usually tell them, show me where the tennis ball begins. Where does a tennis ball begin? You know, so every point is creation, every point is the end, beginning and end.
You're talking about the eternal moment.
In a ball.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, the creation here, I think, is spherical. Means there is creation happening everywhere, destruction happening every moment, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a continuous process. I feel that the whole thing exists like complete existence.
You mean is simultaneously self-revealing and disappearing and self-revealing,
Yes.
disappearing constantly without any beginning, without any end?
Correct.
Okay, so in that process, what I'm referring to is that force or that compulsion that is emerging constantly.
If I have to quote the philosophy here in India, what they say is, God has 5 actions, the godliness in you.
Yeah.
5 things. One is creation,
Mm-hmm.
maintenance, destruction, hiding,
Yeah.
and perhaps you might have heard about it, and then blessing, the grace or blessing. These are the 5 acts of that God consciousness, godliness. And the more the shell falls off, these 5 things keeps emerging.
Spontaneously
emerges. And that's so people ask how come healings happen to so many people.
How come what?
Healings, you know.
Healings.
Yeah.
Healings.
Yeah. When people come with sicknesses, they get healed. And how this happen? Simple factor is that the spirit is revealing, it's getting out of that shell which is covered with.
Yeah.
And as a natural phenomenon, the healing happens. And
it's because the self is realizing its own inherent fullness.
Correct.
Whether the natural integrity to the self that just spontaneously self-revealing then, because it's not, as you were saying, hidden.
Correct.
And I suppose if that's powerfully realized in a realized being, then that also can be transmitted. The power of that fullness can be transmitted, and then other people can catch fire with it.
Correct. Impact is more.